Okay. Kata, you can hear us okay?
Hi there. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're Kata and Tom. Kata is currently in Berlin, Germany, and I'm right here. And we have worked together as a duo since 2011, doing various projects together, and a lot of the work that we do together is based around ideas to do with sound and duration and repetition, and related ideas of archiving and layering and things like this. The works that we've done have included working with sounds of layered church bells and machine learning generated sounds of non-existent trains and abandoned satellites and various other things like that. So, I can talk more about that if you're curious. But the thing that we're here to talk about today is a work of ours called Minute Year. And Minute Year is our longest ongoing work. And it's a durational artwork which began on the 1st of January 2016 and is currently ongoing. And I'm kind of presuming that the reason that most people here might have heard about it is because for the whole of last year, for the whole of 2024, it was installed here in Olin Library, just up the stairs there. And it is a work which, just to give like a very quick outline for people who might not be totally familiar with it, it's an automated durational artwork which makes a 1 minute long recording every day, and which by what I mean is that it records the sounds of the space in which it's installed, and at the same time it plays back the sound of the previous day. And so it creates this layering process over time. And I think of all the places in the world to talk about layering audio over time, this would be one where it's a familiar idea to certain people, let's say. We were very much explicitly influenced by Alvin Lucier in the development of this work, but not only by Alvin Lucier. We'll get back to that. But so the piece repeats this process every day, and has been doing that for 1 minute every day since the 1st of January 2016. And the piece also alters location every year. And so that means that when it was installed here, it began on the 1st of January and it repeated this process every day until the 31st of December. And the recording that was made here in the library on the 31st of December was the recording that was then used to begin the process anew on the 1st of January 2025, when the work began in its new location, which is in a space in Berlin, in Germany, which is an events space called Ausland, and this is what it looks like here. And if you can flip back one, you can see that this is how it looked like for the whole of last year in the library. And if you can keep flipping, you'll see that there's this visual similarity from year to year, where we basically always have it looking kind of more or less the same. And yeah, so what it means is that the work is sort of materially straightforward in that it's these two speakers and two microphones with an accompanying shelf where we keep various cables and stuff like that. And that it runs for 1 minute every day, where the minute in the day in which it runs corresponds to the year in which in which it is running. So for the whole of last year, every day the piece ran at 24 minutes past 8 in the evening, or 2024. And currently in Ausland, it's running every day at 2025. And next year it'll be running somewhere else at 2026. This gives us a little bit of a conceptual problem in the year 2059, but we're working on it. Yeah, so that's the outline, let's say, of the piece. And each recording that the work generates is not only one that's occurring in the space at that time, but is also archived and is available online. And is also accompanied by a printed receipt. So I don't know if anybody here was present during any of the recordings that happened with the work last year, but basically there's an accompanying little receipt, an accompanying receipt printer, which is effectively the same kind of a one that you would have just in the supermarket. And every day it spits out a little spectrogram receipt showing the spectrogram image of the recording of the audio that happened just before. And so what this means is that for anybody who's present with the work during the time when it's undertaking its recording, they kind of get like a little, fragment of time that they can take with them as a little piece of paper. And the work, when we began working on it, was one where we were, as I mentioned, inspired by ideas related to layered sound and layering sound over time. And very much prominent among that is I Am Sitting in a Room and similar works. We were also very much influenced by the ideas that Pauline Oliveros always was working with, these ideas of deep listening and listening over time, and what it means to be an active listener, and what it means to approach the idea of not only playing music with intent, but the idea of listening to sound with intent. And we were also influenced by the work of a Japanese conceptualist artist called On Kawara. I don't know if his work might be familiar to anybody here, but he's probably best known for a series of works that he began in 1966, where he would paint a painting where the painting would just be the day's date. And he began this on the 1st of January 1966, and he continued it for his entire life until he died in 2014. And these date paintings basically more or less stuck to the same template for the entire 50 plus years that this was a task that he was busy with. And so when me and Kata were originally first talking about the idea of beginning Minute Year, we sort of at one point realized that we were approaching the 50th anniversary of the first painting that Onkawara did in this series. And so on the 50th anniversary, we began Minute Year on the 1st of January 2016. So just to kind of give an idea of the artistic antecedents, let's say, or antecedents, I never know how to say that word.
Predecessors.
Yeah. Predecessors, let's say, yeah. Influencing. That these were some of the ideas that we were kind of concerned with when we were thinking about the beginning of this work. But we were also concerned or thinking about the idea of creating an automated work that would be running every day in a way where we would not be present in the space. Or, sometimes we were, but effectively, like, from day to day, the work just runs by itself. And so what it does is it creates this sort of a moment of daily surveillance, let's say, of a given space for 1 minute. But it is also creating a situation in which the moment of surveillance, let's say, is this kind of like slightly absurdist moment where it's also playing back the previous day's moment of surveillance. So one of the ideas that we came across was this idea of surveillance, which is self-surveillance deliberately carried out. And there's a couple of artists who are busy with these kinds of ideas. One of them is another artist duo in Berlin who work under the name Plan B Performance, and they have been carrying transmitter devices since I think 2008 or something like that are always transmitting their exact location, and they have been building up this archive of where they have been in the world for that entire time. And one of the kind of I suppose ironies of this kind of work is that when they began doing this, they were the only people on the planet who were deliberately recording their location all the time. And now, of course, we have this situation where we all carry surveillance devices that record our location all the time. They're just called phones. And we had a similar kind of a realization about Minute Year because when it began in 2016, the idea of kind of deliberately recording fragments of time in a repeated way was something where we were thinking this is maybe not such a usual idea. And then, like actually within the first year that the piece was running, the idea of people having an Alexa or a similar device in their homes kind of emerged into wider popular consciousness, and now it's sort of somewhat, like, let's say more or less widespread, that it's sort of an accepted idea that you just have an always-on speaker in your home that's listening to you all the time. So there's a certain sort of an irony in having the, efficiencies of late capitalism engulfing your artistic ideas from, within the time that you've started working on them. And this was one of the strange things that happen when you're working with ideas that are durational and that can unfold over the course of years or even decades. And we appreciated the absurdity and the irony of having this thing emerge sort of over the time since we began the work. So we were kind of thinking when we were when me and Kata were talking about how we would want to present this talk today, that we wanted to give a basic intro, which I hope we've done, and that we would then talk about some of the recordings that were undertaken over the course of last year and give an idea of sort of what happened at various times. And so, before I go into that, so the overview that I've given now is kind of like a practical one, but there have been various pieces of writing that have been done about the work, and one of the nice things when other people write about your work is that you can then quote the nice things that they've said about you. So there was a friend of ours, Agna Augelita, who wrote a short essay about Minute Year, because it was in 2022, it was installed in the building in which she was then living in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. And so she wrote a short essay called "Do You Have a Minute?" And in that she said, Minute Year is a work that layers yesterday onto today and today onto tomorrow. Fragments of time become overlaid and shape each other as they layer. It is an accumulator of ghosts, a memory archive, a frame for dreams and drones. For 1 minute every day, it sings a song of remembering and forgetting. So I thought that was a nice kind of a framing of the work. And I should mention that Agna mentions drones, and of course one of the things that occurs in this layering process is that the work generates drones or resonant room tones, and we can never exactly predict kind of what kind of tones might emerge in a given space. But so yeah, when we're hearing these things now, you'll hear some of the tones that were generated by the walls of Olin Library over the course of last year. So, to begin, the first one we wanted to do was day 45 in 2024. And so this was a day when there was an intervention in the work that was organized by Parsa Ferdowsi. I hope I'm saying that right. And Paula, you were there too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so we were talking with Parsa briefly about this intervention. I'm still not exactly sure what the score was that was given, but maybe we can begin by showing the video that was taken of this happening. So this is the work set up in the stairwell, and this is what happened. I like how we're getting some bonus furniture moving noises to just keep it even more mystifying. Yeah, you never know what people are going to do with your work if you open up a frame within which people can kind of make decisions. This intervention by Parsa, I thought one of the things that was kind of interesting to note about it is that there's a latecomer who kind of like runs in halfway through and goes, "Oh shit, I missed the time." So what this means is that each day the work generates this spectrogram image, which is the image of the frequencies of the audio during that time. And you can see that, each time that somebody contributes a sound to the recording, they're effectively also contributing to a visual record. You could consider it by saying that, like, when people are making sound, they're also kind of painting or taking a photograph, or however you might want to think of it visually, in that they're generating these traces in the spectrogram every day. And so you can see the spectrogram that was generated. Maybe I'll move along. So the next one I wanted to talk about was day 87, which was an intervention that is anonymous. We don't know who did this. Maybe it was someone in the room right now. If it was you, stand up. Maybe you just want to hit play on it. So someone wanted us to listen. And I think what was also kind of interesting about this is that the whistling sounds that you can hear had actually happened the day before, and what you're hearing is the replaying of those whistling sounds. I don't know if it was the same person who did the whistling and then came back and wanted to do some intentional breathing and mentioning of the word listen, but we don't know. So it will always kind of fascinating to find out what people might be curious about doing within this kind of given tight frame of this 1 minute. And one of the things that it kind of has allowed us to think about is this the idea of creating a space for a very focused kind of intentionality, let's say, where there's a moment in which people can choose to intervene, choose to make a sound, choose just to listen, choose to say the word listen. We kind of just, we leave it open to whoever might be in the space at the time of the recording to sort of choose what they may want to do. The other thing I should mention about this is that we also, me and Kata, try to do this process of we listen to the recordings that are made by the work, and when there is something that seems notable, we add notes. And so what we're seeing here is the website that is the archive of the work, where we've added our notes as we go along, which is as much for our own future reference as anything else, but I think it's also something where it's kind of can be interesting for people to take a look at. From the whole of 2024, there's various recordings in the archive that have accompanying notes, that's part of what you can see here. So the next one was day 95, another anonymous intervention, which is somebody apparently quoting from a poem by Pablo Neruda. Again, if this was you can let us know. It was again a kind of a moment where we had no idea, first of all, who this person was or why they might want to feel that it was important to them to repeat this particular poem at this particular time. And it's always interesting to find out, in a way, what might be important to people at that time. And I suppose we found it very touching in a way that people felt curious enough about the work, first of all, but also kind of willing to somehow use it as a site that facilitates a layering of other artistic or aesthetic threads of attention, let's say. And so in this case it was that somebody decided that they wanted to repeat a fragment of poetry and left us with the kind of the puzzle of having to listen very carefully to the recording and then try to figure out what was being said and then search online to try to find what it was. And so we did our little bit of detective work and we were able to track it down. So the next one we wanted to talk about was day 99 to 105, because there was sort of a series, like a run of days in which there were various things that happened. So the first thing that happened was somebody started playing a cover of a Radiohead song, but they were seemingly playing a recording of a cover of a Radiohead song. And then the day afterwards, there was another song, which is this one by Magdalena Bay. I don't know if it was the same person deciding to layer two sounds over the course of 2 days or two totally separate people who decided to do this. But then that was quickly followed by... you'll have to pull it out actually a little bit. I think there's a glitch in the layout.
Okay.
If you just pull the... Yeah.
Do that, yeah.
Sorry, Kata,
Sorry.
we're covering your head up for a second, but you'll be back in a second. So, yes, then there was somebody singing Happy Birthday, and then another anonymous intervention, which was sort of unidentifiable sounds, and another one, and then on day oh wait, hang on, go back. So on day 105, somebody also then sang Happy Birthday. I think a totally separate Happy Birthday for a different person. But so it was this run of days where we don't know if all of these people knew about the fact that other people were leaving these fragments or traces, or if it just happened to be the case that, you know, people felt particularly inspired to leave these traces. But it was, a moment where it seemed that people were curious about the work and curious about making decisions about what they could do in this given frame or given kind of realm of possibility. So I'm not going to play them all right now. I mean, if you're curious, you can go and listen. They're all online. You can go and listen. But they're all there. So the next one I wanted to go to was day 228. So one of the other things that happens in a space like a university library is that in the middle of the summer, there's nobody here. But Minute Year runs every day, regardless of whether or not there's anybody around. And what this means is that in the middle of August, the piece has effectively had no contributions or input for, I mean, at this point it was kind of weeks. And so what would happen is that it would kind of appear and undertake its process and then go back to sleep in a situation where it was just sort of slowly layering these room tones, these drones, that were themselves slowly shifting over time, and it was kind of slowly fading away. We have it set up in a way where it will never entirely disappear. There'll always be some process of layering. But what this meant is that in the middle of August, there were these traces of sound being created, which effectively really had no, like, let's say, intentional human input that was audible. So maybe we can just play one of these and see what they sound like. So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about this is that you might have seen in the spectrogram that there's a sort of a slowly zigzagging line. And what we figured out is that you have to listen very carefully to hear it, but there's a passing police car or ambulance or something like that. So this is the sound of a siren that's happening outside the building at the same time that there's otherwise this kind of very pure series of drones, let's say. So I don't know if we want to credit the passing car outside as like a thing that we might want to write a note about, but I did think that it was kind of an interesting, let's say, external presence that became visible and ultimately audible, although you really have to listen carefully, in the minutes that were being recorded. But so, yeah, one of the things that I suppose we wanted to note about this is that the piece keeps going even when there's nobody there. And the results of that process are themselves also somewhat unpredictable in that we never know quite how far it's going to go before the sounds really kind of calm down into this sort of result. And we also never know when there's going to be a passing ambulance or something like that. Okay, the next one we wanted to do was day 248, because I've been talking a lot about deliberate interventions and people making choices and people kind of being consciously present, let's say. But a lot of the time, there's also just people in the library doing their stuff and perhaps not even realizing that this work was there and not particularly caring about it, perhaps. And one of the things that was a kind of a recurring, let's say, unintended motif of the year was that this piece was physically located in this stairwell, which has these marble stairs, and so it means that when people are walking up and down the stairs, that's a very recognizable sound. And so it created these kinds of traces in the accompanying spectrograms, which is these kind of sharp lines. So we can, I mean, if you like, you can kind of jump 30 seconds or so into this when you play it. And yeah, we'll just hear some footsteps. This was also one of the recurring sounds, let's say, of this particular space that made it recognizably different to other spaces that the work has been in over the last almost a decade now. Okay, and then the last minute that we wanted to talk about is that there are interventions that were messages and poems and all kinds of other things, but there were also, let's say, more explicitly musical interventions. So let's take it away. This was an intervention. I promised I wouldn't say who by. And yeah, it was a process through which the work allows this frame for these kinds of interventions, and I do think that it is always kind of interesting to sort of see ways in which people can consider the idea of a single minute as a frame and think for themselves, okay, what can I do in 1 minute? And the idea of a folk tune is something that I think is kind of I had never particularly thought about it this way, but it is a particularly appropriate kind of like musically concise thing to put in, let's say. And so I thought that this this particular intervention was, let's say, conceptually appropriate in its timing. So that was 7 minutes, or chunks of minutes, let's say, that all happened in the library stairwell over the course of last year. And that was what we wanted to talk about, to give an outline of the kinds of the things that were happening here with this work that we had here. And I've been doing all the talking so far, and Kata has been dutifully sitting through it all. So I think we wanted to, first of all, say thank you very much to Paula and to Aaron and to everybody here who's allowed for this to happen. It's been actually really wonderful to be able to have had the piece here last year. And I should say that the end result of this is that there is a small exhibition of so I mentioned that each day there was a receipt that was printed from a receipt printer. So in the kind of gallery space just across the way here, there is a record of the entire year printed out on a series of strips of this receipt paper. So I don't know how long it's going to be up for, but it's there now. So if you want to go and take a look, then that's there. And it basically gives an overview of the entire year and of every trace of data that was created by the work over the course of 2024. And I've been told I should do this, so if you want to have more, this is where to get info and stuff like that. We're totally curious about any thoughts or questions or other kind of contributions that anybody might have. So let us know your thoughts. Yeah.
I have a very technical question.
Yeah.
So it records from the day before and layers, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How many? So I'm assuming that there's and you probably said it, but there was a lot of info, so I may have missed it. But how many times do you do this? Because I'm assuming you can't have 300 days of layering, right?
Yeah. No. So basically, what happens is that the work is layering the sound from the day before, and that's layering the sound from the day before. And what's happening is that as it's building up these layers, it's kind of it's simultaneously allowing them to fade away. So effectively, it's kind of like if you've ever gone to a beach and written your name in the sand and then had the waves come across it. It's sort of something akin to that, in that the layers are always being added, but they're also always simultaneously fading away. So let's say that conceptually, the sound that you hear is the sound that is the end result of a process of 3,321 layerings of sound. Practically speaking, you usually can hear remnants that go back to maybe 7 to 10 days previously, or 7 to 10 recordings previously. It kind of depends on how loud of an intervention has been made in the work. So there was one person who did a drum solo and really was hitting hard in 2019, and that, I don't know, there were still audible fragments of that maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks later, because it was really loud. But effectively, it's kind of mounting this process that is always adding, but at the same time always fading away, let's say. Maybe Kata wants to say something. Sorry, I really... Can you hear us okay?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, what
yeah.
did I miss?
Yeah, maybe just to add to what you just said, that the remnant that's there like 10 days after is maybe the recognizable remnant.
Right.
But in a way, all these drones that are created are in some ways remnants of all the sounds that happened before, just transformed into another sound, ultimately.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had the practice of listening every day to it yourself, or if you would sometimes just wait.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, we do listen to all the recordings. I mean, it's like, that's our job. But it is something where we kind of... a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll kind of let a few of them stack up and then listen to kind of like 5 or 6 in a row, let's say, and it's always interesting to hear kind of how things will follow through over time. This is the moment to mention that the work also generates a weekly podcast. So if you want to listen to like a neat chunk of 7 recordings in a row, you can do that. The link is on the website. What this means is that you can have this kind of, I suppose you could call it a kind of a focused listening, let's say, where you can hear the changes over time. Sorry, is that what you meant? Or
Yes, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So we do listen to the minutes, and also we do also sort of like a listening with our eyes. So usually when we first see a minute happened, it's through the Telegram channel, where it also posts every day. So first we would see the image of the day's spectrogram, and often it's through the spectrogram that we recognize that something happened in the space, which is always also an interesting process, learning what sounds make what kind of shapes, and also learning in different spaces what typical sounds occur that also have a typical shape. So it's also kind of like a process of visually learning the shape of the sounds.
Yeah.
Sorry if you mentioned that, but I'll ask it about this. So the kind of the exhibition of your work, the audible part of that. So for this, you just archived all the recordings on the website, right?
Yes.
And I'm assuming there is a similar system for the other projects you did previously. I don't know, the spaces that you did for the same project.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm just curious if there is any concept behind, like, so for how long are you gonna run this? Okay, let me ask a different question. If you're thinking about it, so somehow presenting this audible part of this work as a kind of a, not as a one piece, but some kind of a, maybe there is a narrative to that too, or something, what combines all this space and what's special about it, what are you finding by doing this, like something, like I'm just thinking, because it's, whatever you showed for this space, it was really interesting, and your thoughts about it. I'm just curious if you have any ideas of how you conceptualize other spaces in relation to each other, maybe doing something like this.
Okay, so like if I could summarize, let's say it's like what is the thread of connection from year to year between the different spaces?
Yeah,
is that what
and
you mean?
how, and if there is a way also for people like who come here today and we got interested in this, is there a way for us also to kind of know what's happening in different spaces and how you're exhibiting that too?
So, okay.
So I did bring up the current recordings page.
Yeah. Ah, right, okay, yeah. So yeah, basically every recording that the work has ever done is all on the website. There's
Is this our...
yeah, this is the front page of
But that's for this
minutehere.com.
space, right?
No, it's
Or it's everything.
all
Okay.
the spaces. There's, hang on, if you scroll right down to the bottom of the page. So this number here is our like little hidden reference that there's how many actual recordings are in the entire work. So it's been 3,321 days since the work began, and there's 3,321 entries in the archive. Don't worry, you're not expected to listen to all of them. And
You can actually tab back.
yeah, it is
Through
possible to go
But
through.
also then is there a map or something? I'm just sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
no.
curious, like if we want to explore this project
Yeah.
in its entirety, like if there is sort of a like maybe map, that you found some recordings interesting, right? Like how to navigate.
Yeah. I mean, I think the work, when we had completed a block of 7 years of the work, which was at the end of 2022, we decided that was sort of a giant block of information, let's say, that we wanted to somehow present as a coherent entity. And what we did was we again used this approach of printing out the receipts of every single recording that the work had done between 2016 and 2022. And we did an exhibition at a gallery in Berlin called Half Sister, where we effectively filled 2 large rooms with these strips of paper. And so it was this situation where somebody could walk in and walk through these rooms and see these records, where each record is like maybe this size, but when you have thousands of them, they fill rooms. And so the smaller version of this is like a 1-year excerpt, which is what's on the wall outside over here. And that is like a, maybe, I don't know, 10 or 11 feet wide by like 7 feet tall or something like that. Sorry, I'm using feet here. I'm used to meters, but I think I have it right. So that's a way of like kind of presenting a block of information that is just 1 year. I think this gives maybe an idea of what you were curious about. And then as to what you were asking about, like, how long will we do this? Whenever we have a description of the work, like when we're summarizing it for something, one of the points that we usually add in is to say that the work has no set ending date. So we don't really know yet. I mean, I'm sort of, going by the example offered by the work that Onkawara did. He basically decided at one point that he was beginning this project, and he did it for his whole life. So let's see, like right now we don't know, but it is an ongoing work and we're not stopping anytime soon. I hope. Inshallah.
But for this, you mentioned this 7-year frame,
Yeah.
the point. So you just exhibited the receipts?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was like the major.
Well, no, we also exhibited. So we also had So every day has one of these videos that's generated. So we made a video of all the videos. So effectively, each year generates about 6 hours of material, and so in 7 years, that's like almost 20 hours or something like that. So we had an external hard drive filled with all of these videos, and then a process of them being randomly selected and shown on a projector like this. So there was all of the receipts, so you could kind of get a sense of an overview of the entire work in one work, let's say, and at the same time we were showing these kind of like selections or like fragments from the work picked at random. And this was how we were kind of giving a sense not only of the scope and scale of the archive, but also giving kind of little parts from the archive selected at random.
And I think I was looking forward a bit here while you were talking, but I think that I've seen somewhere on the website you do have photos of that exhibition of the first 7 years. So
I'll
as well as the sort of year value.
right, yeah. This is also like the overview that's given on the site. I mean, bye-bye, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I would basically say, like, there's a lot of info on the website. There's also various pages that are broken and stuff like that. Like, we'll get around to fixing everything eventually, but we kind of try to make it very... to make the archive very clear and accessible and straightforward. And so it has information about all of the different places and everything. Yeah?
I wanted to ask a little bit about your inspiration for this being from Kovács. I know a little bit of his work, but from what I understand, he uses time as a medium and also finds relationships of it in relationship to human subjectivity. So I think that I definitely see in this work as well, and I think that's fascinating. But also, I want to ask about just him also working in these dualisms. So he's recording time, but he's working in an acrylic paint that is not degradable, and so it's recorded in a way where it's meant to in a way last forever. And since you're working on the internet or the cloud, and that's something that's both very permanent, but also in a way very detached, how does that change the interpretation of your work, maybe in relationship to his, but also how, I don't know, that maybe that's more of an acceptance of the ephemeral nature of time than Kovács' work is.
Could you hear that?
Kind of.
Okay.
Maybe you can summarize or repeat.
Okay, it's sort of, I hope I'm summarizing fairly here. It's about on Kovács' work and about how the paintings are kind of effectively somewhat permanent as records of time, but that we're putting stuff on the internet, which is perhaps could be regarded as less permanent, let's say. And also one of the things that occurs to me about it, that's the basic outline of the question, I think. But one of the things that occurs to me about it is that these receipts that get printed out every day are effectively about as ephemeral as you can get, it's they're supermarket receipts. And I think that that's something that we also we like this ephemerality. It's a nice sort of, the idea that this sort of data record is just sort of produced by the work every day in a way that you can just take and stick on your notice board or something is something that I think we like as an idea. And then the point that you make about how permanent something is it's very much an idea that we have thought about a lot. The least worst answer, let's say, so far has been to have a website where we're kind of trying to keep a somewhat permanent archive. We also are, slowly thinking about ways in which there can be some sort of more permanent record, let's say. And the difference here is that we're dealing in something that effectively only exists as digital information. The receipt is a physical item, but it's recording digital information. And the question of what to do to coherently archive digital information is a question that we're not the only people that are busy with. And I remember reading that apparently this was a question that NASA were busy with in the 1970s, that they began this commission where they said, okay, we've figured out how to get to the moon, but it's all on computers, and we need to figure out a way that the information in those computers won't be lost. How do we make sure that this information is still going to be there in 1,000 years? And they went off and they had their committee that investigated this. And the committee came back and said, it seems that the way in which this problem has been most coherently addressed in the history of human existence has been in ancient Egypt, which is that first you build a pyramid and then you stick a papyrus scroll inside of the pyramid, and that's how you get something to last for centuries in a reliable way. And effectively, there's no better answer. So, we don't know what's going to happen to this effectively somewhat ephemeral data record that we're generating. But we also know that we're not the only ones that are thinking about this problem as a practical problem. And yeah, I mean, maybe we should make oil paintings out of all of the spectrographs. I don't know. We'll think about it and get back to you. Did you have any thoughts about it?
We have been making screen prints. They are.
Oh, that's true.
Not,
yeah.
Maybe they also don't last forever, but another way of turning digital information into analog information.
Yeah. No, I should mention that. So yeah, no. Some of the spectrograms. What we've done is we've made these larger scale screen prints. And one of the things that we were curious about is this kind of process of beginning from a digital starting point and creating something that is analog in the sense that we really make it with our own hands. Or we've had some help along the way, but we do, that it's very much an analog outcome from this digital starting point, and we were curious about this kind of process of rehumanization, let's say, of beginning from something that is digital and automated and just automatically occurring every day, and using that as the beginning point to generate works that are very much kind of handcrafted. And yeah, again, there's pictures on the website of that stuff that we've done. So, okay, I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention? No. Time check.
Just a couple minutes after 1.
Yeah. Okay.
I forgot to mention one very important thing right up at the beginning, which was this was a collaborative project. It was Paula actually brought it to me originally. To see if we could install it in the library. So this is actually a cooperation between the library and the music department. And thank you, Paula, for bringing the original idea and
Thank you for saying
and
yes.
championing it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun having it here. And now we're already, some of us are already talking about, well, what can we do next? This really, it was really interactive. I was amazed at how the students really took it and ran with it. And some of the examples that you didn't talk about, but there are examples in there where they're directly addressing the work, they're directly addressing the two of you, in telling each other about it, explaining it, how it works.
There is also love confessions in the recordings, which you can go and hunt one down if you're curious, but I really love the idea that people are kind of, that it's sort of become some weird sort of a digital confession box or something like that, that people whisper their secrets into. So,
Sorry, are the recordings organized in any sort of categories or anything on the website, or is it just by time?
Effectively, most straightforwardly, it's just by time. But also, there's maybe if we can go back to the front page, the recordings that have accompanying notes are here under notes. So you can see the ones that we've had any thoughts about. And then also, what I think is kind of cool is if you go to random, that will give you a random selection from the entire 3,000 plus recordings archive. And I think that this is a good way of getting an overview. Oh, maybe can you pull it out again? It'll look better. this is a way of getting an overview of the kinds of traces that have been generated by the work over time. It's an interesting kind of sort of window into what's there. Okay, thank you all so much for coming. I think we probably should wrap it up. Can we get Kata back for a second?
Oh.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts, seeing as I did all the talking here?
Yeah, well, thanks for doing all the talking. Maybe two small things. One is that not to get too much into comparing different years to each other, and it's really not about value judgments, but it's been really, I think, one of the most active years in the history of Minitier. It's been really touching how much people interacted with the work, and what Tom mentioned, that we're interested in people's choices, what they decide to do in the given minute, whether they choose to interact with the minute or choose to listen, or set up a whole orchestra that has been really active this year, or this past year at Olin Library. And that's been really fascinating and exciting for us to listen to. And perhaps to mention that we always look for future locations. And so if people might know of any places anywhere in the world, we would be very curious to hear about those, whether a concrete proposal that, bring your work here, or with an idea of possible locations that they think could be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me, sorry, one of the things that you were asking about was the connections between spaces over time. I realized I didn't properly kind of get to that. So last thing, one of the things that we're always kind of curious about is effectively sites of transience, let's say. And so if there's a connecting thread between the different locations, it has been the fact that they are usually spaces that people are somehow passing through, or spaces that allow for transience. And so, if you want to look on the site about all the different places that it's been, it has been in large communal kitchens, it has been in stairwells, it has been in event spaces, it has been in the foyer of a cinema. So all of these places are places that people pass through, and kind of as a result, the traces that can be generated are sort of not necessarily so predictable. So sorry. Finally, to just answer the question you asked, I think let's call it. Let's leave it at that. So thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, Tom and Kata.
Okay.